I think we all know art when we see it, don't we? Because it resonates with us. We kind of get a glimpse of the divine. Here's a story about my first job while I was in college. So I went to SMU in Dallas, Southern Methodist University, and I majored in computer science. Actually, I used to have a double major in computer science and geophysics, but I dropped geophysics when I had a fight with a professor. That's another story. This one is about my first job. And since I was computer science, I got positioned in this place, this nuclear power plant where I would work. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting there day after day programming these EEPROM chips. These are these chips. It's a little cold out here this morning. These are these chips that you program, and you actually embed the software right on the chip, and then they plug the chip in a nuclear power plant, and it kind of powers it. And I remember sitting there, I would constantly mess up, and I would have to erase the chip, and then you would take the chip, and you would put it underneath this infrared thing, and it would burn it clean, all right, so that you could do it again. That is like my only memory, actually, of that whole year and a half that I worked there. I always wondered, like, how was I actually someplace a year and a half of my life, but I only have like one little memory of it. And then, you know, go through life as you do. Many things happen in between. These are other little stories, but I found myself eventually, when I was close to 40, going to Chernobyl. And I connected it back to the beginning when I was actually at another nuclear power plant, which for some reason mine never melted down, thank God for quality control. But now, when I was at Chernobyl, I was a much different person. Not only was I older, but now I was, you know, kind of well down my artistic path. And now that I was actually at Chernobyl and taking photos, this sort of meditative experience where I'm really fully present, I'm really living in the moment, and you're capturing these moments, you're fully immersed in exactly what you're doing. So now from Chernobyl, I've got hundreds of memories, and this was just a short, you know, a little 2-day trip. And this is one of the wonderful things that happens when you're a photographer, an artist, or you're creative, is that you just have more moments that you remember, and it's an absolutely incredible thing. And it's not unlike now. I could find now a moment to be an extended thing. A moment just doesn't have to be a quick few seconds with your camera. It can actually be like a 10-minute period as you're thinking about the life. And actually the entire morning here is going to be a wonderful memory for me. So now that the sun has come up, this is a really nice time to take a photo. It's just high enough above the horizon where we can do something nice. I'll talk through my settings here, and we'll take a photo together, all right? So, what's going on here? Well, we've got this amazing tree. Let's talk about the composition first, okay? We've got these amazing trees here. What are they called, Belle? Like sparkle trees, or...
What, a quill tree?
Yeah, something like a quill tree or a pokey tree. It doesn't really matter, but they're awesome trees. And they've got these incredible shapes, as you can see. And when they're backlit like this, it's all about the shape of the tree. So I'm composing this such that I've got the tree on the right, and then I've got the sun on the left. So they're going to kind of balance out a little rectangle, okay? And then we've got this incredible canyon in the distance. So this is going to be sort of the story that we're telling, the sun coming up, hitting the back of the tree against this epic canyon, all right? So what we want to do, because the sun can make this incredible starburst effect when it's at any time, but especially when it's low on the horizon. So I'm going to set my f-stop really high, like f19, so we get a lot of little blades coming out of the sun. All right, you can also think about it like the higher the f-stop, the more little blades you see coming out of the sun. It's a good way to remember it. And my other settings are, I have a Sony A7R here. I have a 24 to 70 lens. I'm zoomed out all the way to 24. Just try to get the emphasis involved. All right, so I'm fire away here. Okay, I'll tell you my other settings. I'm going to take a few more photos as the sun comes up, just so we have some more options. But I'll talk through them as I do. as for my other settings, by the way, I don't like talking about the settings so much because I think they're interesting, but the settings don't really make the shot. I'm saying these settings as if they're the only settings, but this is wrong. And you'll see that some photographers, like, they just are really hardcore about what their settings are. And it gives the impression that there's only one possible set of numbers that can make the shot possible. This is completely ridiculous. But I'll go and tell you mine anyway, but I just want this to be known that it doesn't actually matter. There's a few different things you can do, all right? And it kind of goes along with this overarching idea that you don't actually have to understand everything about your camera to take a good photo, all right? So my only other setting of consequence here is that I'm at ISO 100, and one reason you want to do that is to keep your noise level nice and low. But these cameras are so smart, I could have set it at auto ISO and it would have picked 100 ISO. That's a big thing to remember about these cameras. You know, we spend a lot of money on cameras, but remember what you're doing is you're actually buying a computer, and the computer can figure a lot of this stuff out for you. So there's nothing terribly noble about just knowing everything inside of your head. It's kind of interesting. And sometimes you can tweak it out in certain situations where the camera might make the wrong decision, but honestly, usually it makes the right decision. All right. So I'll take a few more shots here, and we'll see what we end up with back in the studio. We'll work on a photo together, but first let me show you a few of these photos from Chernobyl that I took while I was there. This is at the entranceway. I was there with my friend Will Kelly. Actually, they wouldn't let him pass because he didn't have his passport. So he got stuck in a Russian bunker for about 7 hours watching dubbed Columbo in Ukrainian. This is the actual power plant itself. When we finally got there, it was me, and I had this guy named Yuri who was helping me out. This is the nearby little town called Pripyat that was completely abandoned immediately upon the core melting down. This is Yuri. He's there with a Geiger counter. We're near this place called the Red Forest, and this Geiger counter started going crazy. He goes, "We should leave." I said, "Whatever you say, Yuri." Just really cool abandoned area there. Just really neat stuff everywhere. This is when it got particularly high, the radiation. It's a zoom in of that Ferris wheel. Very creepy place, you know, super creepy creep. This is one of the apartment buildings that's abandoned. You can go in and people's beds are still made and there's still clothes hanging in the closet because they just got out of there as soon as they could. This is a mostly unfinished water tank. This is the hotel that was in town, also abandoned. This is the schoolhouse. You know, there's still blackboards and school books open. That's me standing at the reactor, looking a bit concerned. And this is me leaving the place. I had to stand in this thing to somehow rid myself of radiation. I don't know how this machine actually works or if it was plugged into anything, but I found it to be quite Russian. Here's a photo that I processed actually just after, that I took and processed just after that video you saw. This is up at the main lodge. This is sort of the pool at sunrise. Okay, let's work on a photo together, shall we? Let's do this one. This is the one that I took while I was standing there. Okay, we got 3 exposures. All right, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we're going to make an HDR image out of these. All right, let's take these 3 and we'll bring them into Sweet Lady Photomatics here. All right, and I'll say okay, okay, okay. All right, that will churn away. Okay, and here we are in Sweet Lady Photomatics. Now, if you're watching the episodes out of order or what have you, we're doing HDR here. That's what's happening. We're taking these 3 different photos and combining them into one. All right, and the results are often cool, as they are here. So we're kind of clicking through Trey's presets here, looking at different things. See, whoops! See what we like, see what we don't like. See all that stuff I have on my desktop? Madness, I tell you. Man, under a green sea usually always looks good. I really like it. I like it a lot. Well, the Deep and Fun is quite moody, isn't it? A little something looks nice. Find Me Now. Oh, this is nice. Let's stick with this one.
Okay, now let's play around with some of these other things. Looking good. Very cool. What a wonderful morning that was. This is helping. I like this white clip moving up here because it's brightening up the sky and making the sun a bit more intense. Okay, this is all looking really nice. Really, really nice. Not too, we don't want it too saturated. And color temperature looks good. So we'll say apply. Awesome. And then we're going to do a little bit of sharpening, which I usually always do, a little bit of medium sharpening. And say done. Perfect. Okay, now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you just want to leave it like this, that's fine. You don't have to do anything else to the photo. I see a few tiny little problems that I want to fix, and the way we're going to fix them is by recombining this with the original image or with one of the raws, probably the middle raw. I also see there's a few dust spots on my sensor because I shot at such a high f-stop to get these beams of light coming off of here. And also I find the sky to be a little bit gray in a few ways, so we'll get that cleaned up as well. Okay, so let's close this to save it. Save. Put this in processing. Save. Okay, now we'll go back here into Lightroom. Let's take the middle exposure and let's make it look nice. Okay. Let's go ahead and increase the exposure a little bit to get that sky up there a little bit. Let's increase the shadows and the blacks. Let's do a little contrast. Drop down the whites. Not too much because that's making the sky a little gray. See if clarity is doing anything for us. No, it's really not. Vibrance, this is making the sky kind of a nice blue there, I think. It feels pretty nice. Let's make it a little brighter here with this tone curve. Yeah, that sky looks really nice. I'm finding these two different tones to be a little different. Over here it's a little purpley, over here it's a little more teal. So I'm going to bring down a gradient from this side and brighten it up. Not that much, but just a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Very nice. Cool, cool. Looking good. So now we'll say close. I'll right click on this and say export as an idea. And that's going to drop it into that same folder, which I kind of call my junk drawer. Okay, so if we go over here to Adobe Bridge, this is my junk drawer where I have pretty much everything before the final soup is made. Like for example, I finished these star episodes, another episode. I don't need them anymore, right? Because they're sort of the ingredients in the final cake. So I'll just highlight them and hit delete. And these two we're going to work on just now. So we're going to go to Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers. And remember, there's many ways to get files into Photoshop. This is how I like to do it because they come in all piled up on top of each other. And of course, you can round trip all this stuff from Lightroom if you wish. I don't because I don't like having all these intermediary files in Lightroom. Okay, so I'll say File, or I'm sorry, Edit, Auto Align Layers. So I want to make sure they're lined up perfectly on top of each other. And then we'll look at both, and I'll kind of choose my favorite, make that the main image. Yeah, I like this Photomatics one the best. Okay, let's do a quick crop here, just to bring it in a little bit. You can see my lines of fire here. I'm going to try to put the tree as close as I can to Phi, like that. Bring this in just a little bit. Cool. Now on the top one, we're going to make a layer mask. Okay, so I'm going to pick a layer mask here. Pick a brush, make it nice and big. Increase the opacity of the brush, and we're going to look at the two skies. Okay, I still like the sky of the one underneath, the bluer sky. Okay, so we're going to start brushing through and bring in that bluer sky. Okay, I'll do another round here. Looking good. Very, very good. Awesome. That looks good. So I'm going to combine these two into one like this. All right. Now let's go clean up all these messy bits, shall we? All this junk that's on my sensor. I got to get this thing cleaned. I would clean it myself, but I'm a little too scared I'm going to mess something up. I feel like real men clean their own sensor, and you know, the real man version of me would do it. That's just not the version that I happen to be right now. So I'm going to take it to the camera shop, let them do it. Here we go. Look at that. That is looking good. Looking good. Oh, there's another one right here. There's sort of a big chunky chunk right there. Let's get rid of that one. Awesome. There's a little bit of lens flare right here. You'll notice that lens flare is always on the exact opposite side of the lens. which would be right here. So always look for that when you're shooting into the sun. This is great. Look at the details on here. Amazing. That's another good reason to have a big, 36 megapixel camera, or full frame camera, because you can get all kinds of wonderful details. This would make a really nice print, I think. Awesome. Okay, so let's make this nice and big. And let's go look at one of the originals. Okay, let's go back into Lightroom. Let's reset this. Go F. Okay, so this is the middle exposure, which of course is a little bit deceptive because our final photo did come out of 3 different photos that were all combined into an HDR. Okay, so it started like this, and it ended like this, which is that kind of drama that I felt when I was there. Okay, well, thanks for joining me for this episode, and I will see you soon in the next one.
This is a very important thing when you travel, is to get photos of the people that are there too. Because the landscapes are great, the architecture is great, all that kind of stuff is great, but the people kind of really connect it all together. They're the glue that makes it all work.